it does still count, and it was never funny or cool. Okay, anybody else?
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
What if you wore the blackface as a tribute, like an homage to your hero?
Who was your hero?
Al Jolson?
Okay, well, then I would file that as very, very wrong. Look, people, we are elected state officials. We can't keep having this pop up.
But it was the 80s!
I don't even know what that's supposed to mean, dude.
Virginia in crisis. Two top Democrats admit past racist acts, and a third is accused of sexual assault.
We will have our say, and I am confident in the truth.
Plus, Elizabeth Warren makes it official.
This is our moment to dream big, fight hard, and win.
And the acting attorney general gets a grilling.
Who are you? Where did you come from? How the heck did you become the head of the Department of Justice?
As Democrats flex their new power.
It's called presidential harassment, and it really does hurt our country.
Inside Politics. The biggest stories sourced by the best reporters now. Welcome to Inside Politics. I'm John King. To our viewers in the United States and around the world, thank you for sharing your Sunday. The political crisis in Virginia deepens, an ugly mix of racism and alleged sexual assault. The governor, who admits appearing in blackface, says he will not resign. And as the lieutenant governor denies 2 sexual assault allegations, an impeachment effort looms.
They are very serious allegations, and while the lieutenant governor is due process, the question is whether he can serve while that process is happening. And I think that remaining in office is not good. It's not good for the Commonwealth, and he needs to step down, step aside.
Plus, testing time at the Trump White House. Democrats begin aggressive oversight of the president's team and his policies, and the president must decide this week whether to compromise on the border wall or trigger another government shutdown.
This is a moral issue. The lawless state of our southern border is a threat to the safety, security, and financial well-being of all America. In the past, most of the people in this room voted for a wall, but the proper wall never got built. I will get it built.
And Elizabeth Warren joins the crowded 2020 Democratic field. Progressives love her attacks on powerful banks and corporations, but her liberal views and claims about Native American ancestry do raise electability questions.
This won't be easy. Now, there are a lot of people out there with money and power and armies of lobbyists and lawyers. People who are prepared to spend more money than you and I could ever dream of to stop us from making any of these solutions a reality. I say to them, get ready, because change is coming faster than you think.
We begin the hour again with the political and leadership crisis in Virginia. Yes, we began here a week ago, too, but it is far more troubling and complicated now. Democratic Governor Ralph Northam is defiant, ending a week of seclusion to tell the Washington Post he will not heed state and national calls to resign, and that he plans to finish his term, dedicating the next 3 years, he says, to racial reconciliation. Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax, defiant too. He denies sexual assault allegations by 2 women. One says Fairfax raped her in college. The other says it was at the Democrat convention in 2004. Fairfax insists he is innocent and wants an investigation. A Democratic legislator says articles of impeachment will be filed Monday, and both women say they are willing to testify if there are impeachment proceedings. The next Democrat up would be the Attorney General. But like the governor, Democratic Attorney General Mark Herring now admits he also appeared in blackface back in the 1980s. Herring is among those who quickly demanded the governor resign. But he says in his case, he hopes to rebuild trust. It is a crisis that plunges the Commonwealth into chaos, and one that tests the commitment of national Democrats to the red lines they drew when Northam's racist act was revealed, and that they have drawn in other big Me Too moments. CNN's Kaylee Hartung joins us now from Richmond. Kaylee, what do we expect when lawmakers return to the Capitol tomorrow?
Well, John, when a second accuser came out against Justin Fairfax late Friday, we found ourselves asking the question, would he be showing up for work on Monday? Would he be able to survive the weekend? Calls for his resignation swiftly followed from nearly every Virginia Democrat in Richmond and in Washington that you can name. And yet, despite the lack of support from his own party, Fairfax shows no sign of resigning. He's now admitting to sexual encounters with both of his accusers, but he says he believed those interactions to be consensual. He is pleading for due process now, calling for an investigation, asking that the FBI get involved, but people are already questioning the legitimacy of the FBI's jurisdiction in this matter. Now, the question for Monday will be, will a Virginia Democratic member of the House of Delegates introduce those articles of impeachment that he's threatened if Fairfax hadn't resigned by Monday? You know, we are very far from any impeachment proceedings beginning here, but if they do, both women who have accused Fairfax say they are willing to testify. One of the women's attorneys saying they have corroborating witnesses to support them as well. What we do know, John, is that on Monday, all three of Virginia's top lawmakers, embattled in their own controversies, are re-entrenching themselves. They will be showing up for work, and this crisis of politics and leadership in Virginia will continue.
We'll continue. We'll see any developments in the week ahead. Kaylee Hartung, appreciate it, live from Richmond, Virginia this morning. With us in studio to share their reporting and their insights, Molly Ball from Time, Jesse Holland with the Associated Press, Michael Scher of the New York Times, and Sungmin Kim with the Washington Post. So where are we today? It is an incredible... last weekend, we thought Justin Fairfax would be the governor of Virginia by now. And now we see that Ralph Northam says, I'm not going anywhere. And Justin Fairfax, by most accounts, is in more trouble than the governor in terms of survivability.
Yeah, that seems to be about right. And all three of these officials are staying put at this point. But as you said, it is Fairfax who seems to have the most heat on him at the moment, in part because Governor Northam sort of went underground after all of this came out, made his statement, and has given the one interview to the Washington Post, but has tried as much as possible to stay out of sight. There's a theory of damage control in these kinds of scandals that says that if you just weather the storm and disappear for a while, you can come out the other end several weeks or months later, and people will have cooled down. And the question for I think for all three of these officials, related to how they've handled it, related to how the public sees these accusations and how serious they are, how substantiated they are, and of course there's particularities in all three cases. The question is going to be, how has the public processed these? Have they cooled down after a period of time? And that may be harder for the lieutenant governor if there is, in fact, this proceeding against him.
And that's what makes this interesting in the sense that Governor Northam's trying to just stayed in seclusion for a week. Again, everyone thought a week ago, everyone was saying, let's get the lieutenant governor to the governor's office. Now, 2 credible allegations of sexual assault, the possibility of impeachment in an odd way. I don't know if that's the right word. I can't find the right words on this story. But Justin Fairfax's troubles have actually strengthened Northam's position.
And the weird thing is that Fairfax is the only person who's actually accused of committing a crime. Now, what the governor and the attorney general did, immoral, maybe, but you can't take them to court over it. Fairfax is actually possibly facing criminal charges because he's accused of committing crimes. So it's going to be hard for him to move forward until this either is resolved or something else happens for him. Because I don't see the governor being dragged in front of a court anywhere at any time for what he did. But Fairfax might be sitting in front of a judge one day having to answer under oath about the things he's accused of.
And to that point, the legislators, rape, obviously, you can be impeached for that.
Right.
So they think they have grounds. They don't think stupid, idiotic, reprehensible racism is stupid, idiotic, and reprehensible, but they don't think you can impeach somebody for that. So here's the box we're in.
Well, and look, one of the features of government like Virginia is that the legislature is not in session full time. It's not like Congress where they're here year round, right? Virginia has either 45 or 60-day sessions. Those can be extended. The governor or the legislature can be called back in for special sessions. But, one of the things that all three of these men might be trying to do is to run out the clock. Once the legislators leave town, they go back to their, to where they're from. It becomes probably easier to sort of kind of bear down and entrench and survive this. Now, that's probably, for all the reasons, just stated, harder for Justin Fairfax than it is for the other two, who, if they can get through the next, say, month, are probably feel like they've got a better chance of surviving.
And you have to imagine, too, that Governor Northam, as he tries to hunker down and weather the storm, are really looking at the poll numbers in the Washington Post this morning that says Virginia voters are actually pretty split on whether he should stay or go. They're at 47% stay, 47% go. And I thought the numbers from African-American residents in Virginia were really fascinating, where 58% of them said the governor should actually stay and only 39% said he should go.
Right. No politician has ever been happier to see, to see a 47 number in the poll. Because if you can put the numbers up, the state is split on should the governor stay or go. And you make a key point. 6 in 10 African Americans say the governor should stay. And now, again, with the focus more on Fairfax and the possibility of impeachment, I assume the governor thinks he can stay back around the clock. Now, a lot of Democrats say, can he be effective? He says he wants to spend the next 3 years on racial reconciliation.
Well, I think that's the point, is that the flip side of the Virginia government structure that Mike was describing is that they are right in the middle of this very short and hectic legislative session that they only have once a year. So it has really sapped this is a governor who was perceived as, he was popular, he was perceived as doing a good job, he was perceived as effective in a bipartisan manner with a legislature that's controlled by the Republicans, and this has completely sapped all of that. His approval rating has plummeted, and how do you lead when you're in this position, when you're afraid to go out in public, when you can't really talk to your constituents, much less broker deals with the legislature they're considering this big budget. Northam had a lot of priorities in this budget. It's very much harder for him to execute on his agenda when he's in this position.
Right, and here's what he told the Washington Post. You're right. He said in seclusion for a week. He finally grants an interview yesterday to the Washington Post. He says there are ongoing inequities to access things like education, health care, mortgages, capital entrepreneurship. And this has been I think, an awakening for Virginia. It has raised the level of awareness for racial issues in Virginia, and so we're ready to learn from our mistakes. Can he lead on that agenda? It's the capital of the Confederacy. Virginia, like all of America, but Virginia maybe in some ways more magnified the racial history of the state because it was the capital of the Confederacy. But can he lead on these issues? Will the state accept, okay, I speak to you as a sinner, let's make progress?
Well, that's one of the things that's going to be interesting to see. One of the things we have to keep in mind with Northam, he is in his one and only term as Virginia governor. He can't run again. So there's nowhere for him to go after this. So if he left the governorship, he wouldn't have any position at all because no one's going to give him another chance at anything else. So this is his one shot to rehabilitate himself. And so I think that's one of the reasons why he doesn't want to leave. He doesn't want his legacy to be as the governor who was caught in blackface. He wants to take this time to try to rehabilitate himself so he could possibly have a political future. Because right now, if he left, he wouldn't.
And the National Party is in a box, in some ways, a box of its own drawing here, in the sense that they got right out when Northam's blackface moment was revealed and said, you got to go. Now he wants to stay. They can't pull that back, right? And in the middle of the Me Too movement, and the lieutenant governor himself says he wants a forum. Is impeachment the likely forum?
Well, I mean, look, it's the only sort of like actual process that could lead to a venue for some of these things actually being discussed, other than a criminal proceeding, which is sort of out of the political process. Look, people wouldn't say the National Democrats who called immediately for Northam to resign they wouldn't say it, but they were very much mindful of the fact that they had what they thought was a very popular, smart African-American lieutenant governor who could step into the role and sort of help solve their problem. Now that doesn't seem to be the case, as you say, they're in a real box because they don't, they are caught between what they think they should do from a political perspective and the long-term implications of doing that thing, because they could, in theory, hand the state, which had been trending Democratic, back to Republicans for a long time.
It's a fascinating situation, and we'll watch. The next move will be when the legislature comes in tomorrow. We'll keep an eye on it throughout the week. Up next for us, Deja Vu Week here in Washington. A Friday deadline, a possible government shutdown, the border wall, the big